Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Mule4 for you. Today I will be discussing the one of the common connectors that we use while developing a Mule APIs, that is HTTP listener. So HTTP listener is a connector which listens to the request that is coming from the external systems or client or from the user. So our REST API in MuleSoft can use an HTTP listener to receive a request from the front-end application and process the data and then response back to the calling system. So now let's go and see the key features or the configurations that we are required while we are configuring the HTTP listener connector. So I have created one blank project. Here I want you to show how to configure the HTTP listener. So just drag and drop this HTTP listener. As soon as you drag and drop here, you can see there are few options that are coming. Connector configurations. So let's try to create a new connector configurations here. So here the first one is the protocols. So HTTP listener will support both HTTP as well as the HTTPS protocols. If you want to handle request that is coming from the client securely using a TLS, then you will go with the HTTPS configuration. But if you don't want to secure the request that is coming using TLS, then you will go with the HTTP. This is the default protocol. If you are not selecting any protocol, by default, it will take it as a HTTP. And next one is the host. Here it is one of the custom configuration which we required while we are configuring the HTTP listener. So this let it be as a local host only, and port also it is 8081. Normally, whenever you are selecting a protocol as HTTP, you will mention a port as a 8081. But in case if you are going with a HTTPS, then you will be mentioning port as 808. Now I will go with 8081. Click on OK. See here there is another required parameter that we need to configure is path. For now, let me give it as a listener. Save it. Now, next one is we should mention what kind of method this listener should accept, what kind of uh, method we can configure. See, here it's not a mandatory to configure the method for the listener, but by default it will allow you to call a get post. But in case if you want to configure the listener only to accept for get operation, then you can mention it. Or if you want for post, then you can mention it as a post. For now, I'm keeping it as a get. Selecting a method as a get, listener can accept the request from query parameters, URI parameters, or headers, or from body. But in case if you are, but here in get method, body is not a mandatory. You can send if it is possible for you to send the request completely in a query parameters, you can send it through query parameters only. So the body is not a mandatory when you selected a get method. But in case if you are selecting a post method here, then the body the request that is coming from the client, they should send the payload in a body. It's a mandatory field that they need to send it if you are selecting as a post method. For now, let me keep it as a get method and save it. Now, another thing is like as I already mentioned, there are query parameters headers. So the listener can extract all this request from the either query parameters or URI parameters or from the headers. This listener connector, once you are done with this configuration, so the mandatory like host, port, protocol, path, and either you can leave it to a default method or you can select your specific method. Once you are done with all these configurations, now the listener connector needs to be triggered. So how it will get triggered? The mule flow will never start by its own. Okay, the mule flow will always start whenever there is a request that is coming from the client. Whenever the listener is able to listen any request, then only this particular flow will get triggered. Now, just to see how this listener configuration is working in our configuration, I want to keep on transform message just to see the flow. Here, let me just mention as a one is like a message because I want you to show how it will be if we are sending body, if we are not sending a body. Okay. As we selected a get, body is not a mandatory field, but you can send it a request in a body as well. So here I will mention it as a payload. Default, I will simply, along with the along with this, I want you to see the attributes. As I said, listener connector will extract the request from the attributes or the headers. So attributes, just imagine attribute. I cannot give the complete name, so I am just giving this name. Attributes dot query parameters. Let's take one of the query parameter. Query parameters. Default, let it be. In case one request, I will send it as with query parameters. Other one, I will not send it. Let it be as a query only. Okay. Now let this as a request and let me run this application. Yeah, now the API has deployed successfully. Now let's go and test it from the Postman. So here, let me duplicate this particular request. So we know we have given a, it, let me complete. We have given a HTTP protocol with local host and the port is 8081 and listener is a resource path. I'm not going to pass any request either in the body or in the attributes. I'm just going to hit it as it is and let's see what kind of response we are going to get it. Parameters also we are not sending anything and message also we are not going to send anything. See here as because we know that attributes are something like it is an object which has a lot of lot many details. That's why it is coming as an object. Now let me send one of the query param name equal to hello and send it. See, now query parameters. As I mentioned in my code, attributes.query params.default, it is giving as a query parameter. As I am sending a query parameters, it is giving a my query parameters, whatever I am trying to send. If I am going to send something like RAM, it will give you a RAM. Now, see, the get call is getting success if without passing any body also because the body is not a mandatory to send when you are selecting a method as a get. But in case if you are selecting your method of the listener as a post, then it's a mandatory you should send a body that you should keep it in your mind that body is a mandatory when you are selecting a method as a post, otherwise your application will get whatever the request you are sending it will get failed. Now let me send a body also. Okay, now let me send a body JSON structure simply age 20. If you are sending a body that as we already mentioned, I mean we are just logging that in a message section, it is logging here. And the query methods, if you are not sending a query parameters also, that's okay. Here body will consider as a request that is coming and we will be getting the response as it is. Okay. This is how the listener configuration. So the main thing here you should remember is listener have few mandatory fields that needs to be given. One is the host and the port. If you are not providing any protocol also fine, it will take a default, it will be taking as a HTTP. And next thing is a path. It's one of the mandatory field. And another one is a method. This is also it's not mandatory. By default, it will accept get or post methods. So you no need to be worried about this. Okay. Yeah, that's it for listener configuration. Next, let's go with another connector configuration.